All right, here we go. Greg Kading, welcome back.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
You were on here before. And, for those that didn't see the first piece, remind everyone what your role was in the whole, Tupac and Biggie investigations.
Okay, so I was an LAPD detective. I was actually working in our narcotics bureau at the time that I was recruited to come and take a new look at the Christopher Wallace murder investigation. So this was in 2006, and the city was facing a lawsuit regarding that murder investigation. So I got recruited in to work in our robbery homicide division, and then from that we developed a task force that began to take a new look at all of the old claims.
Right, and how long did you work on it altogether?
Just over 3 years, from
Okay.
2006 to 2009.
And it ultimately ended with no convictions.
Correct.
Right. Which was very frustrating on your end.
Yeah. To this day.
To this day. Well, at least you got to get the whole story out.
Yeah.
On a lot of different platforms.
Yeah, and that's been really satisfying.
Yeah.
Being part of this conversation, since I retired in 2010, but for the last 9 years, just immersing myself in the conversation with the international collection of fans and people that care and want to know what happened.
So before we met last time, Murder Rap, your documentary, hadn't come out yet.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that came out and, shook a lot of things up.
Yeah. Mike did a really good job with that. Obviously it was based on the book, Murder Rap, but Mike Dorsey, the producer of that project, did a really great job, I think, of getting the, using that platform, to speak to an audience that's not going to go buy a book and read it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, very well put together, very detailed. Definitely one of the best documentaries about that subject, if not the best, because you really kind of broke down a lot of things, and a lot of documentaries came out afterwards, which I didn't think were very good, like the one with like Ice-T and so forth.
Yeah.
I just thought was sort of thrown together, it didn't really bring a lot of new information to it.
Yeah.
But then after that, the Unsolved series came out, and that was essentially based on your story.
Yeah, I collaborated with the creator of that series, a guy named Kyle Long, and he had approached me, and he had watched the documentary, and he was always fascinated with the case. So we got together, and we kind of agreed to work together on the scripted series. USA picked it up, aired it, and now I think it airs on Netflix next week or in 2
Oh, really?
weeks. Yeah, it's coming to Netflix in
Great.
a couple weeks.
I could rewatch it then.
Yeah.
Hell of a series. How many parts was it altogether?
10.
10 parts, right.
Yeah.
They really went. Yeah, and each part was relatively long, right?
Yeah, so you got 10 hours of
Yeah.
coverage, essentially.
10 hours on that whole story. Yeah, pretty incredible. And, we were talking about this before we ran the cameras. There was a high level of detail in those scenes. Like, I remember you and I talked about how when you guys approached Keefe D, it was at his house in the garage. Yeah. And I'm watching the series, and sure enough, Keefe's in his garage, and your character comes in, and it was like, oh shit, like they really went above and beyond.
I'm always surprised because, like the writers, everybody found that to be such a fascinating scenario. And, I was just like, we just went to the guy's house, and we went in the garage, and the door closed, and it was kind of weird. And but when I retell the story, people are like, wow, what an incredible moment. And, so it's, and the creators and the writers and the producers and everybody on Unsolved really committed to trying to get this as historically accurate as they could. Of course, it's made for entertainment, so they've got to take some creative license, but they were really committed to trying to get the story historically correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's better than some movies, honestly.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it was very well done.
I appreciate that.
Now, there was supposed to be a movie that was supposed to come out called City of Lies, which Johnny Depp was involved in,
correct.
But that was scrapped.
Yeah, I was just kind of hearing through the rumor mill that it had problems from the onset. And of course, it never really came to fruition as expected, and I don't know all the details of it, but quite frankly, I'm not surprised. I mean...
Were you involved in that at all?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Okay. Well, that movie was based on Russell Poole's investigation, right?
Correct.
Did you know Russell Poole?
Not personally. You know, I only knew him through his work, and specifically through his work on the Biggie Smalls investigation. You know, we'd never crossed paths on the job. From what I understand, he is a pretty good detective in his day, but I only knew him through evaluating his work as it pertained to Biggie's case.
Well, I guess during the course of him doing this investigation, he had a heart attack and died.
So that happened post-street. You know, he left the job, went and became, you know, kind of like a marshal over at the federal courthouses in L.A. His life seemed to kind of spiral downhill. You know, he went through some financial problems, family problems, drinking problems, that type of thing. But then he kind of got a second wind and was trying to look into some late claims, like 2015 claims that he wanted to try to track down. And in the pursuit of that, I think the stress caught up to him, health caught up to him, and he was in an interview over at the LA County Sheriff's Homicide Bureau, and he just seized up.
And just died right there, huh?
Right there.
And even in a police department, they couldn't get an ambulance fast enough, or?
Well, I mean, when you have a heart attack and you die, it's pretty immediately under those circumstances. Of course, life-saving efforts were employed, but CPR was employed, the ambulance got there, but it was just his time.
Yeah, I think Busta Rhymes made a comment, I guess, on social media, basically saying that it's a conspiracy theory. He felt like,
Of course,
you know, right when Poole started to, you know, address his cold case, you know, about Biggie's death, he just died. And he said, oh, ain't that some shit?
Yeah. Let's set him up at the police. Let's kill him here. That makes so much sense. Bring him into an interview room at the police department.
And kill him there.
Yeah, fun, yeah.
I mean, when it comes to Tupac and Biggie, there's no shortage of incredible conspiracy theories involving the highest levels of power in the world and so forth. You know, like just recently, Suge's son is saying he has Tupac in the studio and all types of interesting shit. But it is what it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, none of these conspiracy theories ever come to fruition. At some point in time, you just realize that wishful thinking is not going to get you anywhere.